Hey everyone! I recently drove cross-country for 4 nights and 5 days with my 2 cats and 78-pound dog. So whether you're moving or doing an extended road trip, here are my top 5 tips for long-distance driving with your fur babies. Make sure you keep watching for my number 1 tip so that you don't repeat my mistake. Tip number 5 is to get your car ready. The first way we do this is by making sure our pets will be secured. For cats, this means making sure we have a carrier for them, and ideally, they've been introduced to it at least a few days before. I have 2 cats, and they both have their own carrier. I prefer the soft-sided ones that kind of look like luggage, but there are hard-sided cases and even cardboard ones you can use. Although I wouldn't suggest using a cardboard carrier for anything longer than short trips in town. Whenever we travel, a few days beforehand, I get the carriers out and just leave them open on the floor of my bedroom. Inevitably, I'll find my cats hanging out or sleeping in them. Now, this doesn't mean they're excited on the day when I zip up the top, but I feel that it's a little less stressful that way. For dogs, securing them can also mean a crate. But if you have a large dog and a smaller car like I do, what I suggest is you get a barrier that attaches behind the driver and passenger side headrests. These prevent your dog from trying to walk up the console, which is dangerous. Now that everyone is secure, for our cats, we need to make sure we have a litter box. Whenever traveling, I like to use disposable litter boxes. There are a couple of different types available. The first is a self-contained one that actually comes with litter already in it. You just remove the cover, and there's about ½ an inch of litter for your cat. I have 2 cats, so this kind doesn't work very well for us. Instead, I used cardboard litter boxes. You can either keep reusing the same one and use litter box liners that you can throw away every morning, or you can buy enough disposable litter boxes for your trip. Regardless of the type of litter box you use, plan to have 1 trash bag per day per litter box. This makes it easy in the morning for you to clean up and put everything into it. Instead of carrying a heavy bag of litter into a hotel room every night, I pre-fill gallon-sized freezer bags with litter. I do this before I leave and just load the gallon bags into my car. I use 1 gallon bag full of litter per night. With dogs, of course, you'll need your poop bags. I usually keep a couple of rolls in my car. I just think it's the worst feeling when you need a poop bag and don't have any. For dogs, make sure you bring a few toys, a bed, or blankets that have those familiar smells, and bring some of them into your hotel room at night to make them more comfortable. The last way we get our cars ready is to make sure we have enough food. If your cats are anything like mine, they're not going to eat while they're in their carriers. But hopefully in the hotel room, especially if you do my second tip, they'll eat. My dog has never had a problem eating anywhere we go. But in addition to their regular bowls, I did keep a portable dog water bottle handy so that when we stopped, I could offer water to her quickly instead of pouring water into her bowl and then dumping it out if she didn't finish it all. Tip number 4 is to have a driving goal each day. I know some people are comfortable just seeing how far they can drive each day, but I prefer knowing how many miles and hours I'm going to be driving. I prefer to drive a little bit longer during the beginning of my trip so that the last day or two I'm on the road for less hours. Knowing what hotel you're headed to and that they accept pets is just one last thing you'll have to worry about at the end of the day. During this last trip, I was looking for hotels the night before, and one that I looked at didn't accept cats, which was important to me and would have been a huge problem if I showed up there and didn't read this information ahead of time. Most places do charge a fee for pets, but look around because some fees are cheaper than others. Another thing I found is that if the hotels in one town have higher pet fees, the next town over will likely be cheaper. Tip number 3 is to take breaks. Taking breaks when driving is good for us, but it's also good for our dogs. I ended up stopping about every 2.5 to 3.5 hours to let my dog out so she could stretch her legs and go to the bathroom if needed. Stopping is also a good time to give water and some food. If you didn't know this, a lot of Love's gas stations have a dedicated dog park area. I know this won't appeal to everyone if you have a puppy that isn't fully vaccinated, or if you have a dog that's immune compromised. This is not a good option. I only stopped at one during our trip. It was in the morning, and we were the only ones inside of it. There was a lot of dog poop inside of it that owners didn't pick up, which is so annoying, so we didn't stay very long. Tip number 2 is to use calming aids appropriately. If you're going to use calming aids, I would suggest that you make sure you try them out beforehand. About 5 years ago, I moved halfway across the country with my 2 cats. I didn't have my dog yet. I bought them these calming chews that were supposed to work wonders. Well, guess what? Neither of my cats would eat them. They were pretty hard and smelled weird, so I can't really blame them. But they weren't exactly cheap, so that was unfortunately wasted money. I also bought this calming spray that you were supposed to spray in the air and I don't think worked very well. I do give all my pets CBD oil. I don't do this all the time, but there are situations that it comes in handy. I use a liquid for my cats that is of course formulated specifically for pets, and just use a dropper to administer it orally. With my dog, I'll either put it on her food or mix it into something like peanut butter or cream cheese and give it to her on a lick mat. I stopped putting the CBD on my cat's food because sometimes they wouldn't eat it. I did not give anyone CBD on this trip, but I'm just mentioning it as an option. But one thing I did on this trip, and I think it helped my cats, is that I took one of those pheromone diffusers with us, and in the hotel room every night I plugged it into an outlet in the bathroom. I use these in my apartment anyway. My cats are tolerant each other, but they'll never be best friends. I don't think these diffusers work miracles, but what I've noticed is that it seems to make my cats more comfortable in a new space. In my last apartment, I had a couple of overlapping days where I was moving out of my old apartment into my new one, so I was able to plug a couple of these into the walls before I moved my cats, and once I put them down, within 5 minutes they were out of their carriers exploring their new home. With a previous move, no exaggeration, it took my cat Eartha over 4 hours to get out of her carrier. I think having the diffuser in the hotel bathroom also helped them get comfortable enough to eat and drink. I know my own cats won't really do either if they're stressed. The number one tip if you're traveling or moving with your pets, especially cats and small dogs, and your stay in a hotel is to check the beds. No, I'm not talking about bed bugs, although that's important too. Rather, I'm talking about the box spring. A lot of older hotels will have box springs that are opened underneath, which is the perfect space for small animals like cats to hide. This can be incredibly frustrating when you're ready to leave in the morning and have repacked your car only to struggle to coax your cat from under the bed. As I already mentioned, about 5 years ago, I drove halfway cross-country for a new job, and this happened to me one morning, and it took about half an hour to get my cat out. Even though I knew this was possible, on this most recent move, this happened with both of my cats at one hotel. I had to push off the king-sized mattress and completely pull up the box spring to get them. This is the last thing you want to do in the morning when you're ready to start driving or trying to get out of the city before morning rush hour gets too bad, which is always what I'm trying to do. So how do you prevent this? First thing is to check the bed before you let your cats out and see whether they could crawl up inside the box spring. If they can, you have a few choices. You could keep them in the bathroom. Just double check there aren't any holes in the wall or in the bathroom vanity. I did stay in a motel once that had a hole in the bathroom. The second thing would be to make sure you get them in the morning before you start packing up the room. Cats aren't dumb, but if you can get them while you're feeding them breakfast, or if they happen to get up on the bed with you during the night to cuddle, you can gently get them at that time. If all else fails, you'll have to do what I did, which is to lift the box spring up by pushing off the mattress. Just remember to reassemble the bed and put everything back the way it was. Driving cross-country with your pets doesn't have to be stressful. With just a little planning, you can confidently and safely arrive at your destination. I hope you found these tips helpful. Let me know in the comments if you're going to be moving cross-country, half-country, or just down the street with your pets. Until next time.